Hey, everybody. Welcome to our broadcast here for tonight. Hope everybody's having a fantastic night. Now, there's a cold brew going around all over the country. Hope everybody's staying warm. Um, we'll try to, of course, can't give you a heater or anything, but let's see what we can do. Let's give everybody a couple minutes to join in here. Be some info out here. Let's see. All right. Well, welcome in, everybody. I hope everybody's having a fantastic week. Let's go ahead and dive in. So, tonight we're going to talk about um, the retirement risk. What I want to do is dive into some of the things that you guys voted on that we put a poll out there for. One of the top ones, actually, how to put a plan together and retirement risk were the top two. We're gonna touch on all of them. We're gonna go through all of them. So don't worry about that. But tonight we're going to kick off the retirement risk. So, first of all, welcome all the new members to the group that joined here since the last time. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you have not checked out the welcome post, check that out. You can look at past broadcasts that we've done. They're either you can go into the video section, you can scroll through the posts, they're out there. They're also on the YouTube channel as well. You can go to the YouTube channel and find those out there as well. So we'll dive in again. Welcome. If you guys have any questions, you can hit me up in the comments section. You can DM me on Facebook, whatever it may be. If you don't want to chime in live, you can certainly DM me as well. So if you're watching, hit a hashtag live. This helps us out with the broadcast and with the Facebook algorithms. Hit me up with a hashtag live. If you're watching live, a hashtag replay for those of you that are going to be watching it later on the replay. So we appreciate that. So let's dive in. Retirement taxes. So, not taxes, sorry, that was last week. Retirement risk. There's six main risks in retirement. And you probably saw those on the graphic that we put on the banner. There's six main risks, right? Well, can't cover all six of them in one night. There's just too much to talk into. So we're going to talk through one of the night. Now, there's really, out of those six, they're all important. Now, the goal would be to try to mitigate or eliminate all of those risks, at least reduce them or eliminate them. But that comes up with each personal plan, and everybody's risk may be a little bit different. Your exposure to each risk may be a little bit different. So we're going to do this in a series. So we're going to talk about one of the risks tonight. We're going to touch on the other risks in future episodes that we're going to come up in the coming weeks. So tonight we're going to talk about sequence of returns risk. That's one of the top ones. There's two top risks. One of them is longevity risk. One of them is sequence of returns risk. So we're going to touch on sequence of returns risk tonight. We're going to talk about that a little bit and go in from there. So this is a really big one. Let me pull up a couple graphics here that I want to show you guys. Let me share my screen. Let's see. Let's pull this up. All right. So before we dive into the risks themselves, let's look at this retirement mountain. Okay. So this retirement mountain, the peak of this. I want to cover this because each of the different six risks fall into different categories, and they all come into different segments of the retirement planning. Now, remember from past videos and past lives, and some of the things you maybe heard me talk on, is that there's really two phases of retirement. There's the accumulation phase, the distribution phase, and the drawdown phase, right? So everybody's really concerned about the accumulation phase, and you should be. That's growing your money, getting enough money saved up, and that's fantastic. You got to do that, right? But too many people don't think about the distribution or drawdown phase. How are you withdrawing that money down after you retire? It's crucial. We're actually going to have a whole episode on that as well, as about the drawdown phase itself, because how you take the money out, what accounts you take them out of from, and when can have an impact on how long your money lasts, and the taxes that you pay and the risks that are associated. So I want to pull this up first because we're going to be referencing back to this off and on throughout the different series. So phase one, you have the plan. You get your plan together, figure out your risk tolerances, and you work towards your personalized rate of return. Okay, so that's accumulation. You're working up that mountain. Now notice there's a danger zone here up at the retirement peak. And the reason that goes across the top is this is where we get into the sequence of returns risk. Within the first couple of years before you retire, and definitely the first 3, even up to 5 years after you retire, it makes a huge difference of what your returns are doing on your accounts, right? Now, let me tell you something right here, though, is that everybody, not everybody, there's a lot of people that sit there and talk about average rate of return. Okay, it's not the average rate of return that you need to be asking what you're going to get or what you have. It's the yield, because the yield is what you actually get. You can have two different. I'm going to show you here in a minute. You can have two different portfolios that have the same average rate of return, but the order in which the returns came in made the yield a totally different. I'm going to illustrate this for you very clearly in a minute when I'm going to pull up this chart. Okay. So that's why we have this danger zone is you got to protect. You're in a much more protection mode up here. And you got to make sure you're in the right investment vehicles to protect yourself. Um, and we'll get into that more a little bit as well. So you're up at the top of the peak, then you can figure out how the heck am I going to recreate my paycheck, right? That's the retirement income planning aspect of it is recreating your paycheck for what you need in retirement. So we create, make sure that's correct. And of course, your plan is going to account for that because you're going to set some goals. And then we're going to do Social Security optimization. You got to do that because there it does make a difference as far as how and when you file. All right, but then we got to make sure this whole downside that we're protecting our assets, right? So we're mitigating the different risks. We're going to talk about these other things in future broadcasts, but today we're going to talk about this peak up here, mainly this little section up top. I don't know if you can see my cursor or not, but with that very peak on the very peak down to the red line, we're going to talk about that tonight, right? That's the sequence of returns. So what that means is the order in which you get the returns from your investment accounts. Okay, so let me pull up a different screen here. Let's see. Stop that one. Let me pull up a different. All right, let me get the right. Here we go. Let's pull this up. So let's go through this chart. This is a perfect illustration of what sequence of returns risk is. Now, notice the beginning balance. Everybody, these two retirees both started with $1 million. Now, one's retiree A, retiree B, they both started with $1 million when they retired. Now, they retired at different times, but even if they didn't, you could say they retired at the same time. But look at the order of the returns. This could be because they invested in different investment vehicles. They get different returns. But say they, retired at a different year. One year the market was doing better than the others, right? And I'm not saying you're invested 100% in the market. You're not. You shouldn't be. But at that age, you want to diversify and be in the proper plans. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on as well. Is what tiers, how you structure those funds into what levels, because each level of your funding needs to be a little bit different. That will make sense in coming weeks. So let's take a look at this. So retiree A started with $1 million, but in the first 3 years, he took a negative 17, a negative 11, and a negative 4% hit, right? That's what his returns were on his investments. All right. Well, you keep on going down. So he took a big hit up front. He's out of money by year 16, but really year 15. Okay. It's running pretty low. But if you look over here at retiree B, started with the same $1 million. He had positives at the front. He took some negatives along the way. He had a 19 here and 6. He had that 17 down here at year 30 and stuff. But look what's happening is he's growing, growing, and growing. And yes, he's taking some hits, but he has enough money to last through his retirement. In fact, he gets to year end 30, he still has $2 million. He started with $1 million. Not only does he have enough money, he has $2 million. Now, the other thing I didn't tell you is they started with $1 million. But this scenario here also assumes they're withdrawing $50,000 a year, right? So in both of these scenarios, they have the same exact starting balance. They're both drawn down. They're in the same tax bracket. And they both draw down $50,000 a year. Why the phenomenon on this is think about compounding interest, right? The miracle of compounding interest. When you're putting money into just a plain Jane savings account, your money earns interest. Well, that interest that goes in your account, and then that interest earns interest, right? Same kind of thing goes in reverse. It's reverse compounding, if you will, on the sequence of returns. So time when sequence of returns comes into play is when you're withdrawing funds out of your accounts when they're going down. In this scenario over here on the left, okay? That's where the huge risk comes into play. So you were drawing funds in a down market at the same time the market's going down. It can be catastrophic, as you can see here, what it's doing. All right, so we're all drawing $50,000 down a year. And this person ends, not only can he sustain his retirement, but he has money left over to leave a legacy with. But this also means that he could probably spend more up top. That's something that you do in a personalized plan. So all of our people that we work with in our programs, we personalize that plan and we figure out what their expenses are going to look like in retirement, and we factor that, the whole plan around it. Okay, so some of you may be sitting there thinking, well, wait a minute, how can I control the market? How can I control this negative and make this positive happen? So if you thought that, good for you. No, you cannot control the market, but what you can control is where your money is, right? There are some different investment vehicles out there that will allow you to grow. Say this guy got 9.9, allow you to grow, but also protect from this. So if say let's take this guy over here on the right, retiree B. So he, got a 9% return. Maybe say the next year he got instead of 25%, maybe the next year it goes down, right? You want to be protected. So if retiree A was in the right investment vehicles, he was in the protected accounts, he wouldn't have this negative. He wouldn't have this, these 3 years of negatives. He may have been credited zero, but there are investment vehicles that give you protections to where instead of the negative, you just get credited with zero. Okay. There's ways to protect it, and it's ways to get that income drawn in without taking that hit. As you can see, this chart is pretty powerful, right? Running out of money versus having a lot of excess. And, of course, we can't predict how long we're going to live, but we're all living longer. The mortality tables, you're getting, we're getting to the point where our average retirement is not, we're just not talking 10 years anymore. You got to plan 20, 30 years out, right? So if you have questions about this, hit me up, send me a message. We can certainly talk about your personal situation or whatever, and we can go a little bit more in depth on the sequence of returns, right? But hopefully you can see how impactful this is, right? So if you have some comments, put some comments down in the comment section if you have questions, and we can go from there. And if you want a copy of this chart, so anybody that wants a copy of the chart, go ahead and put a comment down in the comment section. Just put the word chart. Okay. If you want a copy of this chart to see what the sequence of returns risk is doing, put chart in the comments, and I'll send you a copy of this so you can see it. You can analyze it a little bit better. And then if you have questions about it, hit me up. Send me back some comments, or message me or whatnot, and I will go ahead and send that off to you. We can dive in a little bit deeper, right? Very impactful. There are ways to protect yourself against this. This is only one small part of the overall plan, right? We're going to talk about the other risks, the other 5 risks on some other sessions. We'll talk about how the sequence returns factors into those risks. So we're going to talk about all these risks first, so everybody understands what those risks are. Okay. Once we get through all the different 6 risks, we're going to then dive into the makeup of an overall plan and what the steps are. Okay, so we won't take a whole episode for each risk. It's not going to be a 6-part thing. There are some risks that are a little bit quicker to talk about. We'll combine those a little bit. So we will have a few sessions on risk. This will set the foundation for you to understand the risks. So when we start talking about the plans, you know what we're talking about, right? You can kind of see how they fit in. So I think the order of what we'll do is we'll talk about probably 2 or 3 weeks worth of risks, and then we're going to get into the overall plans themselves. Okay. When I talk about plans themselves, we're going to talk about the steps, how to put a plan together, what makes up a plan, and the key components that you need. So again, guys, I appreciate you joining. Hit me up at hashtag live, hashtag replay at the bottom. Let me know how you're watching. Put the word chart in the bottom in the comments if you want to copy this chart. Be happy to send it to you. And then you can, by all means, ask any questions that you may have on that as well. So look forward to next week. We're going to cut it short here tonight. Short and sweet. And let me know if you have any questions. God bless. Stay warm. And we will talk next week.